Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. My name is Rob and I will be your host for this evening. So I'm a short story writer, and every single Friday we cover a brand new chapter from one of my short stories. However, on Wednesdays we do something a little bit more scary. You see, the stories that I write, they may be creepy or eerie or scary, but they're not real. The true terrors lie in everyday life, and they happen to people just like you and me who least expect it. Welcome to my series, Far From Fiction. Today we will be covering a case that's over 70 years old and still haunts the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This case has still remained unsolved all this time. However, new developments do give us a better picture of what happened. This is the case of the Nameless Boy. It was February 25th, 1957, when a discovery shook a quiet neighborhood of Philadelphia to their core. In a wooded area, a college student exploring animal traps stumbled upon a sight that would haunt the investigators for decades. Inside a discarded cardboard box lays the lifeless body of a young boy, malnourished and bearing signs of abuse. This was the start of what would become known as the infamous Boy in the Box case. Police arrived promptly after the boy's body was reported. He was estimated to be around 4 to 6 years old, with a pale, bruised body and a hastily haircut. He had been wrapped in a cheap flannel blanket. Despite their best efforts, no identification or missing person reports matched this boy. Investigators released thousands of flyers with the boy's face, hoping someone would recognize him. Flyers were even included in the gas bill in an unprecedented move to draw attention. But the days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The community watched in horror and sympathy as police poured resources into the search for answers. Forensic experts examined the cardboard box, discovering it once held a baby bassinet sold by a local JCPenney store. Investigators tracked purchases, questioned thousands, and followed countless leads. Still, no breakthrough came. By the early 1960s, new theories began to surface. One particularly notable theory suggested that the boy might have been a victim of a foster home located nearby. The foster mother was questioned, and though her explanation about the clothing near the scene was peculiar, it wasn't enough to press charges. Other leads included a runaway or abandoned child, but none were conclusive. As decades passed, the case grew colder. Still, the boy story persisted, retold by generations of true crime enthusiasts and amateur detectives who speculated on possible suspects. Was he a victim of a vengeful parent? A child caught in an illicit adoption scheme? Each theory seemed plausible, but lacked evidence. The boy was later laid to rest in Potter's Field, marked with a simple headstone. In the early 1990s, his remains were exhumed for DNA testing, which at the time was in its infancy. No matches were found, and the boy was reburied, his identity still a mystery. The dawn of the 21st century brought new hope, though. Forensic genealogy, made famous by cases like the Golden State Killer, provided a new, renewed avenue. In 2019, DNA analysis technology advanced enough for genealogists to retrace family trees. Slowly but steadily, the unknown boy's family tree began to take shape. Finally, after more than 60 years, the unimaginable happened.
Until today, he's only been known as the Boy in the Box, a cold case that has stumped investigators for 65 years. An unidentified child found naked and beaten to death in a cardboard box on February 25, 1957 in Philadelphia. Now we know. At a press conference today, detectives identified him as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He was just 4 years old when he was slain.
In his very short life, it was apparent that this child experienced horrors that no one should ever be subjected to.
Until now, his headstone was poignantly simple. Bless this unknown boy. How, after all these years, were investigators able to identify the boy in the box? The body had been exhumed twice for DNA. But advances in science and technology allowed investigators to gather more critical information that led to the boy's identity.
My role was to take the very badly degraded DNA and try to develop data from it that we could use for genealogy. That took 2.5 years and 3 different tries, and we finally did it.
Now the next mystery. Who could have killed an innocent child? Is there a suspect?
The answer at this time is unfortunately no. We have our suspicions as to who may be responsible, but it would be irresponsible of me to share these suspicions as this remains an active and ongoing criminal investigation.
The boy was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born 1953. This revelation was bittersweet victory, opening old wounds, but also giving him back his name. It was the culmination of years of relentless efforts by investigators, genealogists, and the advocates who refused to let his memory fade. But even with his identity known, the question remains, who was responsible for Joseph's death? Theories resurfaced from close family members to clandestine adoptions gone wrong. Allegations of family cover-ups and potential suspects were debated, but no one was charged. In February of 2002, a woman known as Martha, or M, came to the police and gave a testimony that her mother had purchased the child in 1954 from a family. The boy's name she was given was Jonathan, which could have just been mistaken for Joseph, given that it had been 50 years since she had seen the boy. She gave all the details that described the boy in the box story. The boy was abused and beaten to death and left in the woods. However, Martha became a bit unreliable for her story. She had an extensive history of mental illness. The neighbors of Martha's family were interviewed and told the investigator that the claims were ridiculous. In this theory, it's hard to tell who is telling the truth. It could have been Martha was just suffering from mental illness, heard about the story, and her brain made her believe that it was her parents who did it. However, it's not entirely possible to rule out that Martha may have been telling the truth. What if the family made up the mental illness? Or maybe the family abused her mentally and to the point where she seemed crazy. Maybe the neighbors were so close to the family that they vouched for them in the story that Martha was crazy. There was another theory brought up by Frank Bender, who believed that Joseph might have been brought up as a girl, which explained the botched haircut that could have been done out of spite. There was also strands of hair that were found on the body. Although I see where he's coming from, I don't really see it being the case. Just because I don't think the haircut has really anything to do with this case. I mean, if you're going to have a malnourished child, I doubt you're really going to take them to the barbershop to get a haircut, which would explain why the haircut was botched. Through my research, the one theory that makes the most sense, and I really do believe in it, although again, no proof and we can't really say anything because we don't have proof on it, is the foster care. It's the one that makes the most sense. It is clear wherever that Joseph was living would have been the cause of his demise. If he was a runaway from his family, they still would have claimed at one point that he went missing, unless he was abused by the actual parents, but the theory of foster home gets stronger as you look into it. The foster home in question was just 1.5 miles away from where the boy's body was found. Remington Bistro was one of the lead investigators for this case up until his death in 1993. He went as far to hire a New Jersey psychic to see if he can pick up on where the boy came from. The psychic just happened to take him right to the foster home. It gets weirder because when the foster home was getting ready to move, they held an estate sale. Forever trying to figure out the connection to this foster home and Joseph, Bristow went to the estate sale and found a bassinet for sale, the same one that was sold at JCPenney's, matching the box that he was found in. Bristow believed that the boy was the son of the stepdaughter of the man who ran from the foster home. They hid the boy and eventually disposed of him so the world would not look at the stepdaughter as an unwed mother. However, it was in 1998 that this theory gets even more weird because the man who ran the foster child facility and the stepdaughter were interviewed. The two were now married. Very creepy, very gross, but also brings up a point that Bristow had made. I didn't really understand why you would care if your stepdaughter was an unwed mother. I know it may have been a bigger deal back then, but still, I don't think that would be worth abusing a child. That never really made sense to me, but then it finally clicked. The two were now married. it wasn't the fact that she was an unwed mother to this child, is that it was the stepfather's child. That would make more sense why you wanted to hide the child. As of a couple years ago, the Philadelphia Police Department have said this is still an active investigation and have asked for any info that they can get. Along with the developments of DNA, they were able to use other clues from the boy to gather more details. In December 2022, they found out Joseph lived in the area of 61st Street and Market Street. However, it is unknown how long they lived there while Joseph was still alive. Today, Joseph's story is a solemn reminder of the resilience of those who seek justice and the power of never giving up. Though many questions remain unanswered, he is no longer a nameless child. He is Joseph Augustus Zarelli, and the search for justice continues. That is it for today. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, please be sure to click that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We make videos 3 days a week. Every single Monday, we do a series called Echoes of the Past, where we review a haunted location's history and why it may be haunted. Every Wednesday, we do another edition of this series, Far From Fiction. And of course, every Friday, we do a brand new chapter from one of my short stories called the Friday Night Campfire Stories. Also, just want to let you guys know that my first collection of short stories, Whisper in the Shadows, is available in the top of the description on Amazon if you guys are any interested in that. We have the e-reader version as well as the paperback copy as well. So if you have any interest, please check that out. But that is all for today. Like I said, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We'll see you next time. And as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your day here with me.